What's going on, Ravens fans? Welcome back into an iced-in and at-home edition of the Baltimore Ravens Rundown. My name is Joey Petersen. We got a ton to break down on today's show. Jesse Minter made another coaching staff hire, this time on the offensive side of the football. I'll tell you who that is, why you should be excited. And then additionally, late last night, we got a report that the Baltimore Ravens are requesting to interview a very, very young and up-and-coming offensive mind in the game, learned under Ben Johnson and Sean Payton. I'll tell you more about Declan Doyle on the back half of today's show and why I think he could fit as a Baltimore Ravens offensive coordinator and why I think it could be a little bit of a risk. So happy you guys are hanging out with us today. Hope you're warm, hope you're safe, and hope you're subscribed to the channel. If you have not done that yet, make sure to hit that big red sub button down below. Additionally, if you need to bundle up in the coolest way possible, make sure to check out our Minter is Coming hoodies. We also have Minter is Coming t-shirts. If you buy them both, you get a $10 discount. Chatsports.com/Minter. That link is in the comments and description of today's video. Again, like I said last night, those things are flying off the shelves. Get them while you can, okay? They're selling like hotcakes. Let's get into today's news, this morning's news from Adam Schefter. Baltimore Ravens are expected to hire former Falcons run game coordinator / offensive line coach Dwayne Ledford for the same job and title. Per source, Ledford was with the Falcons since 2021 and helped lead a run game that finished in the top 10 in rushing the past 3 seasons. Look, I'm really, really excited about this move. It was reported late yesterday by Jeff Zrebiak that nothing was official yet, but he's expecting this to happen sometime decently soon for Dwayne to be hired by the Baltimore Ravens, and I feel like this is a slam dunk home run. I get it. The Atlanta Falcons had Bijan Robinson over the past couple of seasons, which has attributed them to them being top 10 in rushing in the past 2 seasons. But a ton of that reason for that is also because of what Dwayne Ledford's been able to do, right? Sure, it helps to have one of the best running backs in the game, but if you don't have an offensive line that can block for him, which we saw from time to time this last season in Baltimore, then it really doesn't matter. We know that the offensive line was a massive, massive weakness for this roster, both in the run game and just in the passing game as well. Just overall, you had 2 guards who were basically incompetent. I like what Gianna Hahn quoted that tweet saying. She said, Dwayne Ledford's offensive linemen all finished with above average PFF scores, with the lowest finishing with an overall 62.9. This is the key in that. That's despite 2 projected starters going down with injury. So Atlanta's offensive line was missing 2 starters, and they still all finished above average when it came to PFF scoring and PFF grading. Can you guys imagine what this offensive line would have looked like if it lost Roger Rosengarten and Ronnie Stanley? Can you imagine the job it would have taken to get those 5 guys without Ronnie, without Roger, without Ronnie, and without Tyler to finish with above average PFF scores? Hell, you had a healthy offensive line for the entirety of the season, and you had 2 guys not even come close to that, in Andrew Voorhees and Daniel Faalele. So again, man, I'm not going to sit here and talk to you guys and act like I know the ins and outs and everything that comes with being an offensive line coach or a run game coordinator in the National Football League. But man, I feel like from the reaction we're getting from a ton of people that cover the National Football League, from former players, former coaches, this is a move to be incredibly, incredibly excited about. So Dwayne Ledford making his way to Baltimore. And I feel like the 2 hires that Jesse Minter has made so far have been 2 really, really impressive ones. Like if you think about locking in Mike Mickens yesterday. I feel like that was an awesome, awesome move. And again, that's what happens. And that's the benefit of getting a coach that has collegiate and National Football League experience, is they've got those connections in the college game, like he did with Mickens. And then this hire with the offensive line, it was probably this team's biggest weakness last year, definitely on the offensive side of the ball. And so no reason to not be excited about that. Excuse me. It's still 9:14 a.m. here in Dallas, Texas. But additional talk on the offensive side of the football with the coaching staff. Brad Biggs tweeted out late yesterday, the Ravens have put it in a slip to talk to Bears offensive coordinator Declan Doyle. Now, the funny thing about Doyle is the Philadelphia Eagles did the exact same thing, and he withdrew himself from the job. Tells you kind of what's going on there in Philly, and how Baltimore is definitely more of a stronger destination to end up in. Regardless, I digress. Let's talk a little bit more about Declan Doyle. So he is the current offensive coordinator for the Chicago Bears. He was in Denver before Ben Johnson took him to Chicago. So he's gotten to learn under Sean Payton and Ben Johnson, two of the best offensive minds in the game right now, and two guys who have like some similar things about the way that they call their offenses, but also like they do things decently different as well. So he's got an experience in kind of running two types of schemes offensively, which I think is a really big benefit for Baltimore. He's never been a play caller, right? And that's why he would take the job. A lot of people see, okay, he's the offensive coordinator for the Chicago Bears. Why would he come and be the offensive coordinator for the Baltimore Ravens? Well, in Chicago, he's not calling plays. Ben Johnson is. In Baltimore, that would be his thing, right? He'd be the play caller. He'd be the full-time offensive coordinator. He has every single say in everything that the offense does. And right now, he doesn't have that in Chicago, and he didn't have it in Denver either when he was the tight ends coach, okay? So this is a guy that's looked at as one of the youngest and brightest minds in the game. When you think of Declan Doyle, think of Ben Johnson like 4 years ago. Okay? That's what I want you to think about. Think of a guy who not a ton of people know outside of those who are just like incredibly locked in and involved in the coaching world and in the National Football League. But those who know that one day he's going to be a head coach. One day he's going to be a hell of a football coach. And so there's some things to be excited about. There's some pros. There's some cons. I saw this quote from Ben Johnson that I thought was really cool. Then we're going to tell you about Prize Picks. Then we're going to tell you about the pros and cons. But Ben Johnson said, Deck's done a phenomenal job this year. He's everything I thought he was going to be and some. He's got tremendous presence in front of the players, extremely smart. I think the future's bright for a guy like Declan. Hopefully we can keep him here for a long time. So really everything you'd want to hear right there from a guy who is his head coach, a guy who is his boss, basically. Real quick, got to tell you about our awesome friends over at Prize Picks. The big game is almost here, and there's no better way to cash in during America's biggest sporting event than Prize Picks, where it always feels good to be right. And since the big game is right around the corner, that also means it's your last chance to get into football action before next season. So close out the season right with Prize Picks by getting $50 instantly in lineups when you play your first $5. Missing your fantasy team? My league's already over. But with Prize Picks, I don't have to wait until next year's draft to keep playing fantasy. Prize Picks lets you play fantasy football every week, even in the playoffs. Pick your favorite players and win when they hit their projections every week, no draft required. Join millions of users and sign up for America's #1 sports picks app. I told you about this yesterday, but I actually crushed it this weekend on Prize Picks. They were giving away a max discount for Sam Darnold, so all you had to do was throw for half a passing yard. I paired that with Matthew Stafford passing yards on the more. And it was a good day for Joey Petersen. Download the Prize Picks app today and use code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Link to this promo is in the comments and description of today's video. Prize Picks, it's good to be right. All right, let's talk about the pros and the cons of Declan Doyle. They're my same pros and cons as for guys like Davis Webb and Nate Shieldhouse, okay? Look, pros, young offensive mind, up-and-comer, really innovative, really smart. He seems like he's a guy that's got a command of the room, even though he's still incredibly young, which I think is all like really big benefits to Baltimore and really big benefits to Jesse Minter, right? To have a guy who can take control of that side of the football. But that's my con as well, is he's got to take control of that side of the football, and he's never done that before, right? When you have a head coach who, and at this point, we don't know if this is going to be the case or not, but when you have a head coach that's most likely going to be calling the plays off or defensively, then you need to have a guy on the offensive side of the football that is capable of being the head coach of that side of the football, right? And when you think and talk about a guy like Declan Doyle, he's never called plays before. You're going to have a coaching staff full of Jesse Minter, first-time head coach. Whoever he hires as defensive coordinator, probably first-time defensive coordinator. And then possibly Declan Doyle. That scares me just a little bit, having a full-blown coaching staff of first-year guys, okay? Think about Ben Johnson this last year. I think it's a great point. Right? Ben Johnson, offensive play caller. What does he do? He goes and gets, I believe it was Darren. Is it? No, it's not Rizzy. It's, is it Rizzy? I believe it. Yeah, Dennis Allen. Darren Rizzy is the special teams guy and former head coach of the Saints. Regardless, he goes and gets Dennis Allen, right? A guy who has been a head coach before and a defensive coordinator in this league. So that way, Ben Johnson doesn't really necessarily, I don't want to say have to worry about the defensive side of the football because he is a head coach, but he can trust it wholeheartedly, 100% to Dennis Allen. I don't know if you can do that if you are Jesse Minter and you hire a guy like Declan Doyle, like Davis Webb, like Nate Shieldhouse, guys who have never been play callers before. That's why Cliff Kingsbury and Joe Brady, to me, have kind of the upside in that point because they not only, in Cliff Kingsbury's perspective, been a offensive coordinator in this league, but he's been a head coach. Joe Brady's been an OC at two different spots. So, man, there's pros, there's cons. I will tell you this, though. If I had to choose one of the young guys that we've been talking about, like between Declan Doyle, Davis Webb, or Nate Shieldhouse, I think Nate Shieldhouse and Declan Doyle are right up there at the top for me. Okay. That's going to do it for today's show. We're going to get out of here. Appreciate you guys for hanging out with us. Make sure, if you have not yet, you subscribe to the channel. We'll be back later with a video, so we'll see you then.